Hello. This is. I'm just going to jump all over the world here in what I'm about to talk about. But my overall arching subject still is the state of the school here at Camp Ranch campus, and I've gotten on to the subject of botany, and I'll bring it home. I'll bring it home to the Camp Ranch campus here. But I s- sparked memories of all the all these gardens that I've been to, uh, all over the world, famous big gardens. And I should clear up that as far as a gardener itself is concerned, my mother used to say I have a black thumb as opposed to a green thumb. Now that's partly because the soil was so bad here. But and another thing I could say is, cut flowers, the kind that you buy that you give people, or if they're in the hospital or something. They don't win me the same way all those wonders. I guess I'm more into bushes and trees, you might say, but flowers too. My mother used to want to go to the Boston Flower Show. At that time, we lived in Concord, New Hampshire, and I went to her once or twice and didn't care for it that much, really. I mean, it was impressive in a lot of ways, and she loved it, but not me. But anyway, on to these. This is going to be all over the world. I just thought, I'm just going to mention these because I've been to every one here that I mentioned. Let's start with Montreal. That was a surprise. I was up there with my daughter visiting relatives, and I heard that there was a botanical garden there. It was a wonder. It's one of the finest I've ever seen. Montreal in Canada. So I want to mention that. Uh, let's jump to Italy. Tivoli, Tivoli, Tivoli. I was there with my wife. We had a vacation in Europe that I'd earned all these points and used them, and we were in Rome for almost a week. And we took one day to go out to Tivoli. I mean, these are amazing places. In Tivoli, it's all about water. Kew Gardens in London, I've been there just one time. I had students that were doing their thing in London, and I had free time, so I spent the afternoon at the Kew Gardens. Wow, these are big. These are biggies. In Munich, the English Garden. That's huge. Now that's a park, uh, more than just a botanical garden. And most people, one of the things people think about right away, oh, people can go nude there. They can go top. Yeah, they can. That's true. Uh, but there's a river that runs through it. That's a whole different kind of experience. But while we're in Germany, how about Hamburg? I was there with my German friends, the Hawklings, Thomas and Shirley, and Hamburg had been bombed. It was bombed to nothing in World War II. Well, Munich was bombed pretty heavily too. But boy, that garden. And you notice I'm not saying specific things about them because there's just too much to say. And near Hamburg, it wasn't on that same trip, I don't think, but I was in Copenhagen for one afternoon, one part of a day. I I took the train from the plane to the airport into Copenhagen and back out. And what did I do with that day? I went to the botanical garden. Uh, and now it was early. It was like April or very end of March, maybe. So it wasn't really open and going, but it was fine. It was fine. Paris Botanical Gardens, yes. My wife Jane and I were there. We kind of went in through the back door in our wandering around in Paris. That was that same trip. We had almost a week in Paris, and we went to the Botanical Garden. It doesn't stand out like the other ones. Um, the In Spain, Malaga, I traveled with my daughter to Europe at one point. That's one of the first trips, the first trip I made after I retired. I wanted to see Europe in kind of a different angle, from the northeast to the southwest, because every time I'd taken students, they'd gone kind of the opposite direction. And Malaga in Spain, there's a botanical garden there, not very well known, but I chose to go there, and it was well worth it. Almost all of these. Uh, all right, while I'm with Erica, let's see. Lisbon. Well, she and I went to two. I think she was with me for both. One, I can't remember the name of it now. It was a little bit west uh, of the center of Lisbon. It's a very famous Baroque garden, and it was nice. And of course, Portugal, the plants, the gardening around Portugal. Oh, gee, and I just thought of one now. Busaco, the forest of Busaco. That was not with Erica, but I was there twice, both times with Shirley Hawkling, and the second time with her husband. So there was Busaco, the forest of Busaco. Boy, I'm glad I thought of that. Uh, all right, let's see. With Erica, we were in Santiago de Compostela, and but I didn't go to a garden that I recall with her then. Although, I mean, all of Portugal is a little bit like a garden, but in Galicia, which is where Santiago de Compostela is, Shirley and I stayed at a hostel, or maybe you'd call it an inn, where it had its own botanical garden. And I filmed some of this. I could give you links. I could take you to these places. Maybe I will. I don't know. That would take some time. But Minho is part, Minho. Minho is part of Portugal. And that whole poorest part of the country, and Portugal's thought of as a poor country, it has been, and this is the poorest part. Well, it's the northernmost part. All of Minho, to my mind, was a garden because of polyculture, Polycultur, polyculture. These little quintas, Quinta, or quintais, if it's plural, ends TAIS. They are very small holdings, but they grow many different plants. And Shirley and I, traveling by ourselves at one point, were into what do they call it? Quinta, for teaching children. I should have written that down. But anyway, all of Minho. If I had one place, I suppose, that I were going to travel again and I could go in perfect conditions, I would go to Minho in the harvest, in the late summer, and travel around those areas to see just what common people had. All right, coming, and in Lisbon, the Lisbon Arboretum is right in the city, and I had one afternoon to do nothing in Lisbon before I flew home, and I wandered around that arboretum. I filmed it. I could give you links to all these things. Lisbon has a couple of greenhouses. Estufa, I think is what they're called. I was not able to get to them. I tried to, but I could only do so much. But a lot of times zoos themselves are just like gardens, for my sake. The New York Botanical Garden, it's near the Bronx Zoo, a little further upstream, I think, from the Bronx Zoo. Wonderful. Longwood Gardens in eastern Pennsylvania, fabulous. In Washington, there's the Bishop's Garden at the National Cathedral, or Washington Cathedral it's called, the Bishop's Garden, and right near it, down the street in the direction of Washington, you can come to Dumbarton Oaks, which is sometimes called the most beautiful garden in the eastern United States. Have I mentioned them all? Maybe I have. I probably haven't. Busaco, I thought of that. Well, I don't know if I'll give you links to these or not. That would be quite a job, but I might. Bye for now.